What's up with wholesaling? Hello, my name is Robert Hadad. I'm with the Cornell Vegetable Program. I'm a regional vegetable specialist. And this is one of two presentations investigating farmers' experience with and attitudes towards wholesaling. The project, Assessing Barriers to Wholesaling for Small-Scale Produce Growers, a case study, ran from 2016 through 2018. We investigated how some produce growers have fared with wholesaling, how they got started, while others have been stumbling and having misperceptions about what it is that will make wholesaling successful. Why aren't more farmers moving into the wholesale market? These and other questions we will delve into. I'd like to thank Crystal Stewart, who's a vegetable specialist with the Eastern New York Commercial Hort team, for assistance in helping me with putting this all together. There's been a lot of interest in increasing wholesale of locally grown produce across the state. And there's been a number of efforts made to educate extension specialists and fellow educators, as well as growers, to the opportunities of wholesaling. And a couple of these programs were the New York State Farm to Institution program and Baskets to Pallets. There were also efforts made to create and expand wholesaling opportunities for getting product into New York City. And on the federal level, there was USDA grants available to help develop food hubs. A lot of these trainings and opportunities have been very good, but one thing that became apparent is that some of the big questions that are out there is it's not like you can create a market and they will come. They've got to have incentive, and the big incentive is will it be profitable for them? What are the perceived barriers that are there for growers moving from a retail side to wholesaling? Is there methods that we can use to help prepare them to jump into wholesale? On developing the investigation into the thoughts of growers based on what type of marketing they do. So we started off by working with an advisory farmer group to develop survey questions that would go out to the broader farming community, fresh produce, small fruit and vegetables. And we wanted to see where growers, where do they fall into these categories. So the first set of questions had to do with have you ever sold a crop wholesale before on a regular basis? And this is where we would see how these divisions would pop out. So it would be yes I do, yeah I'd have but not anymore, or I've never have. So, and the answers from that started off of this study. It gave, it was a Qualtrics survey, so depending on how they answered, new sets of questions would pop up. One of the first ones that we thought that our farmer advisory group came up with was, is this middle group, ones who've tried it but quit. Why? Why did they do that? What was their experiences? What problems did they have? So we wanted to see how they answered. So if they would they consider wholesaling again, and what was the criteria for them to answer that way? So we move through that. And out of the 199 responses that we received, we had 53% currently selling wholesale, about 16% who tried but quit, and then a third who had never wholesaled before. So we thought these were was a great response and there were some significant audiences here to discuss with. And so, starting off with that top group, actually, why do you wholesale? Why do you continue to wholesale? And based on their answers, these were the top choices. They wanted to diversify their markets, wanted to secure steady markets. They wanted to grow more of fewer crops, and they didn't have enough access or enough. They weren't making enough at direct markets. The demographics, the way they break down, they're mostly medium to larger farms, well over $100,000 in sales. Some of the top crops that they were growing for wholesale, no surprise here. Most common things: tomatoes, peppers, root crops, a lot of sweet corn, winter squash. So as we started breaking this down, what were the reasons why, if you, for that group who tried wholesaling but quit, check all the apply based on this drop down list. And it was interesting as how the out. 18% said it wasn't profitable. Just over 20% said they couldn't meet the quality or grading standards consistently. And 14% said that they couldn't meet the volume that was required. And the rest of the rest of the items there broke down in smaller percentages. So we were wondering, all right, so they had a bad experience, but is there market pressure there for them to go back? Would they be interested in trying to go back? And if so, what would be needed? 76% said yes. So this was pretty significant. So this moved us into further discussions, with more questions for that group. For the last group, those who never wholesaled, we wanted to know, would you be interested in trying it? 9% said yes. So a lot of apprehension. But 37% said maybe. So between that two, so that's 46% of the group were, there's interest there, and we need to know why there's interest there, and what do they need to know to try to make the move. So as we work our way through the surveys, and we put together some focus groups, and we work through discussions with the focus groups, we eventually will come out of this with we were looking initially for 8 to 12 case studies, and I'll talk about this in more detail in a few minutes. So the question, one of the questions that dropped down for those two other groups, what was their barriers to entering wholesale? And just rate it. That we're interested really in the top three. No surprise, labor was a really big one. Capital for infrastructure was in their minds was a big issue. Doesn't look profitable enough. That's kind of way up there as well. And then to a little over 50%. Didn't understand grading or packing requirements, and everything else kind of really dropped off from there. So looking at these two groups together, sort of demographic information on there, that most of the farmers had more than 10 years of growing experience. They seem to be located further away from direct markets, and or larger areas where more marketing could be available. So it sort of broke out in two areas. So the farmers were having difficulty finding stronger marketing opportunities The 76% who said that they would try wholesaling again, and 46 that hadn't tried it before, that are interested. This is a target audience that I think really requires us as educators to direct some. So we wanted to find out what sort of activities, what sort of training or assistance that we can provide. What would help with that? And 84% said they needed help figuring out how to find labor, overwhelmingly over the top of the rest. And the others broke out on pricing or profitability, on education on packing, regulations, and maybe some infrastructure improvement or additions. So what are some of the proposed actions? Yeah, if we could figure out how to deal with the labor crisis there, which I think it really is, according to the growers, that it is a crisis, we probably would win the Nobel Prize for figuring out the labor issues. We need to be creating some packing and grading educational materials, getting it out to growers, trying to come up with a method for teaching cost of production that doesn't bore people to tears, doesn't take a lot of time, and can provide them with really meaningful financial data. And then a lot of farmers came up with this thought about organizing discussion groups to brainstorm issues and support. I guess in the grass-fed beef area, this method has been tried. Growers who are all about the same level getting together and discussing, their issues, concerns, questions, sharing experience with each other, and helping each other move through this. So this is something that we might be able to provide for our growers. And then we have another presentation that you can click onto and look further as we bring it down from the large survey down through the focus groups and examination of case studies, and that really cement this whole thing together. So please look forward to that, and we hope you enjoy this presentation.